What's up, guys? Today I'm going to share with you a couple of swaps that I'm doing. We're going to pull, this is a B20V tech, it's turbocharged. Pulling this motor out of, this is a D16Z6 today. This car was super clean. Unfortunately, someone rear-ended it. And now it has all of this damage to it. So it's basically irreparable. We're going to be taking the motor out of this. This is another EG. This one's an SI model. Still has a stock single cam. Just an intake is the only mod. We're going to pull this motor and we're going to replace it with the B20V tech. Here's my progress so far. I got off all the turbo parts, intercooler, all the charge piping, took out the AC components. All the wiring's disconnected. All we need to get is just the mounts and get the engine pulled. Here we go for start of day 2. We're gonna get this D16Z6 pulled today. Today I'm gonna show you how to pull an engine out of a 92 to 95 Honda Civic. And this will go for any 92 to 95 Honda Civic because this is still a D series engine. Now you may have a couple extra parts like this. Take for instance this motor. It still has the power steering. This is an SI model. Has all the air conditioning lines as well as the condenser, the air conditioning fan also. And this car also has cruise control. So you have a little bit more added on luxuries that this car may have other than some of the other 92, 95 Civics such as the DX and the LX models. Go ahead and remove this 32mm wheel spindle nut. You can also want to remove this 14mm bolt which holds the top of the fork in. And on the bottom, there's a nut here, and on the other side is the front of the bolt, the head of the bolt. It's a 17mm. Get both of those removed so we can pull the fork out. After that, remove the cotter pin and remove this 19, well this one's actually 17 on this one. Remove the 17mm nut here, and we need to get the knuckle separated from the lower control arm. I'm using a ball joint separator tool to get the knuckle removed from the lower control arm. Remove the fork. And once you get there, you're gonna need to pry out. I use a pry bar. Get the axle popped from the transmission. What I like to do next, after I have the axles removed, I'm going to drain the oil from the transmission. I'm also going to drain the motor oil, and I'm going to get up in here and drain the radiator fluid. Now we need to get the exhaust manifold removed. You have a 14mm bolt, that's the head, and a 12mm nut. Let's get that removed. Following that, underneath this little rubber cover, there is a clip which you need to slide up and slide out. Then you need to get the roll pin removed and get this 12mm bolt removed. That way we can drop the shift linkage and we'll drop the exhaust manifold. Now I'm going to work on getting a lot of the components removed from the top of the engine. We're going to remove this OEM strut bar. Looks like a couple of 12mm nuts. We're going to get the intake removed. We're going to pull the radiator hoses and the radiator. We're also pulling the AC on this particular vehicle because with the turbo manifold, it was creating a lot of overheating issues. So we're going to pull the components, that way it has a little more room for the manifold when we put the new swap in here. Okay, I got the strut bar removed, that aftermarket intake, and also the radiator. What I'm going to work on next is I'm going to remove the AC components. Just a handful of that's the compressor, all the lines, the AC condenser, the fan, handful of 10mm, some 12mm bolts, If you're not removing that, you can go ahead and skip this step. Next, I'm going to remove the 10mm ground wire, and I'm going to remove the power steering from this engine. It's a 14mm bolt here. You're going to need to loosen up the 12s here and here. That'll allow you to get some tension on the belt so we can get the belt removed. And back here there's another 14 there. There's also one right there. Those are the 3, 1, 2, 3 that hold it to attach to the engine. And then you have one more, which is right here, which attaches to the mount bracket itself. After getting the power steering loosened up, I got one more bolt to get off, but I was working on a compressor. Compressor is attached to this bracket, which is a torque mount. We're going to need to get both of these off both sides. Since we're doing a B series swapping here, we're using Hassport mounts. We're no longer going to use these. But if you're still staying D series, on the opposite side of this, you'll see it. Go ahead and remove. I believe it's a 19mm. Might be a 17. I don't remember. We'll remove that on both sides, and I'm going to remove this one completely off here. It makes it easier to pull the motor out instead of hanging this mount in here. Same with this side. I'm going to remove the mounts completely from the engine. And now lastly, before I get the engine pulled, we need to disconnect all the hoses and wiring, throttle cable, and heater hoses that are connected from, say, the firewall to the engine. There's 2 of those, the 2 heater hoses. You need to get the throttle cable removed. Loosen up this 12mm here, pull it out, take off the vacuum line for the brake booster, and just get all of the wiring disconnected. I like to disconnect it at the tower over here and pull it all the way through and have it hanging over the side of the engine. It gives you a lot of room to access all of the mounts and get the engine pulled very cleanly. Here I have everything disconnected except for the mounts. Once you get to that point, go ahead and get your engine hoist, get it mounted up onto your motor, and then remove all of the motor mounts and get this pulled. Pretty simple, not too difficult. You know, I forgot to mention, I disconnected the slave cylinder at the actual, I don't like taking it off the transmission. It's easier for me to put it off here and then just bleed it when I'm finished. But I disconnected that there, and I removed the bolts here. That way I have a little more wiggle room in case the transmission is sliding up against this. It's a lot easier to get it removed that way. When removing the mounts, easiest thing to do first, there's 2 big 19mm bolts that go here. And if you're on the top side, there's a bolt that'll come through this hole right here. It goes on the other side. They're all 3 19mm. Remove those 3, and then remove the 17mm bolt, which actually holds the T-bracket to the motor mount. This will make it very easy when we get the motor slid up and out of the engine bay. And then get your engine supported, and you can go ahead and, I like to remove all 3 of these 2 bolts and this 1 nut, and then the bolt for the mount. And same with over here. I'll remove these 2 nuts, this 1 bolt, and then the mount. That way you can pull the mount out of the way, and it gives you added room to get the transmission and the mount. We'll get the mount off the transmission and get the motor up a lot easier. And we got the B20 reinstalled. I got the mounts all connected, same with the axles and all of the suspension. Now I just need to work on the shift linkage, wiring, fluids, charge piping, and of course the radiator. That should be it. I'm gonna work on the rest of that tomorrow, as I'm a little tired from finishing all this up in the second day. We'll see you tomorrow, guys. Today we're gonna get everything reassembled. Got the downpipe and the intercooler going on. Had to weld up the downpipe. It had developed a big crack, so we got that taken care of. We're gonna get it placed back on here now. Sounds like it's running really well. I didn't want to overheat it because I still need to bleed out the clutch master cylinder from when I disconnected it earlier. So I'm going to work on that in a moment. But first I'm going to get this bumper put back on, and the old bumper, it needs to be cut. All the grills need to be taken out. So I'm going to work on getting all that removed so I can get the bumper back onto the car.